now. Alright, let's... Last time I was sharing my computer screen, it fucked it up. The sound got fucked up, so let's see. So everything but Xbox. Yeek. Mario Kart Midnight Reveal Trailer. Why gaming YouTuber Velma is complete and utter trash. Dude, Justin Roiland situation. Wanna watch why the Velma thing is trash? Hang on, what is...
Let's talk for a moment about cliches.
I haven't listened to Critical Drinker in a minute. Let's see it. Really quick though, because this tends to make my audio desync. So let's see. Right, right, left, left. Let me know if at any point the video desyncs with the audio, because last time I was in a scene that was sharing my computer screen, it desynced the audio, and I'm like, ugh, just this shit drives me crazy. But let's see this. Let's give it a shot. Critical Drinker. Why Velma is complete and utter trash. Has anyone heard anything good about Velma? Morty, I turned myself into Chris Brown. I'm Chris Brown. Dude, really quick though. Like I don't want to see the Justin Roiland thing afterwards. Maybe we can then play some. Oh, overexposed. Why is it doing that? Come on, camera. There we go. Velma, yeah, she's hot. I'm curious, like, what is gonna happen to this? Because Rick and Morty has been renewed for like 100 seasons, hasn't it? So if the guy who plays Rick and Morty is like going to jail because he's like a domestic abuser, then what happens with future seasons? Sorry about that. Hitting the microphone. I was trying to shrug. Let's see this. Why Velma's great.
For a moment about cliche. Let's talk for a moment about cliches. Ideas, expressions, or situations that get repeated and overused to the point where they become tiresome, predictable, and boring. Like the movie villain who pauses at the moment of victory to explain his diabolical plan. The awkward, unattractive, socially inept guy who somehow ends up with a smoking hot girlfriend. Or the aging, cynical cop taking on one last case before he retires. Or the modern remake of an old IP that race and or gender swaps the majority of its characters, makes women the driving force behind every narrative event, introduces gay romance where none existed before, and makes straight white men the target of every single piece of mean-spirited humour from start to finish. Which brings me neatly along to Velma, an HBO remake of the classic Scooby-Doo TV show from the 1970s about a team of mismatched teenagers who travel around the country in a van.
I used to love Scooby-Doo as a kid.
There was Fred, the suspiciously fashion-conscious leader of the team who was always on the lookout for another case to solve. Daphne, his beautiful and accident-prone girlfriend. Velma, their geeky and awkward but highly intelligent friend from high school. Shaggy, a cowardly stoner who often ended up being chased by whatever ghost or monster was on the prowl that week. And of course, his talking doggo Scooby, who was always on the lookout for another snack. Yeah, don't think too much about it, just go along with it. It was a show that I could best describe as light-hearted, campy and well-meaning fun, with a neat and surprisingly wholesome message about the value of friendship, people from different backgrounds working together, and the importance of logical thinking and looking beyond the obvious to see the truth of a situation. Now, allow me to transport you into the horrifying nightmare that is modern entertainment, with the release of Velma, a kind of high school drama and theoretical comedy about the origins of the mystery team, and if you look closely, you may notice a few subtle differences from the original show, like the fact that Velma is now an acid-tongued, race-swapped lesbian, Daphne is now a bitchy mean girl and half-Asian drug dealer living with her two mums. I can't do this, man. Shaggy is now a black high school news reporter for some reason with an unrequited crush on Velma, and because the show needs an object of mockery, Fred is now a mentally challenged, hormone-deficient rich kid who's so spoiled that he literally doesn't know how to cut up the food on his own plates.
What?
Oh
What
my
is
god,
going on?
I feel like I'm having some kind of existential crisis here. I mean, this is real. This is a thing which actually got made. Someone wrote all of this stuff down, people edited and refined it, a big room full of experienced executives greenlit it, and whole teams of voice actors and animators and video editors helped to turn it into reality. Millions of dollars were spent on this professional production that people genuinely believed was going to be a worthwhile artistic endeavor. Honestly, I thought She-Hulk represented the creative nadir of modern entertainment, but if Velma's taught me anything at all, it's that no matter how far we may sink as a culture, there's always some horrifying new low that we can descend into. I think Velma may actually be one of the most repulsive, creatively bankrupt, nasty, mean-spirited, and reprehensibly terrible things I've ever watched in my entire life. The basic narrative, and I stress the word basic here, is that a string of gruesome murders in the local high school draws the attention of Velma Dinkley, a geeky and unpopular teenager who finds herself as the prime suspect. Velma's still haunted by the disappearance of her mum years earlier, but eventually resolves to start investigating, with occasional help from her former friend Daphne and local soy boy Shaggy. Norville. The trail seems to lead to Fred Jones, the local rich kid who has both a motive and an unpredictable...
Wait, Shaggy's name is Norville now? Is that for real? What? Given how popular, their faces snapping to the screen was a jump scare ahead of his time. Faces snapping to the screen? What do you mean by that, Hermes? What were we talking about? Anyway, yeah, this kind of sums it up.
But was he really responsible for the murders, or is there something else at work here? Clearly the intention with Velma was to delve more deeply into the relationships and personalities of these characters, giving us more of an insight into who they are when they're not driving around solving mysteries and what actually brought them together in the first place. I mean, I can't say I ever really cared to delve deeper into the personal lives of people like Fred and Daphne, but...
In the Scooby-Doo intro, they're reading a book and say, look at the camera with no animation between the two frames. Oh, in the intro where they're just like Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Mm-hmm. They just did it. Did they? Hang on.
Here we can't say I'm driving around solving mysteries and what actually brought them together in the first place. I mean, I can't say I ever really cared to delve deeper into the personal lives of people like Fred and Daphne.
Oh yeah, I see. I see what you're talking about.
But here we are.
Nope. Why is Siri listening? Stop.
The high school cliques, the tension between girls of different social standing, the relationship woes and the unrequited crushes, the troubled home lives, the divorces and the abusive parents and the unconventional family units. It's all populated by a cast of charmless, self-absorbed, neurotic, trite, unlikable morons who all talk and act like they just walked off the set of a Marvel movie, and compounded by dated references and lame attempts at observational humour of the horror genre that movies like Scream did far better 25 years ago. And of course, it's a modern animated show, so naturally it has to be hammered home by the same soulless, generic Cal Arts animation style that pretty much everything relies on these days. Honestly, if you told me that most of these shows were simply produced by an AI, then I would absolutely believe you. Like I say, it's a show which pretty much embodies every negative stereotype and cliche of the modern remake, like the pointless race swapping. Man, it's a total mystery why the lead writer Mindy Kaling chose to make Velma Indian.
Oh, I wonder.
Attempts at snarky observational MCU-style humour, the overuse of gay romance, and the constant attempts to work in cultural references that became dated about 5 minutes after they happened. And what's truly baffling about this show is that it tries to wrap all this stuff up in what it believes is a package of ironic, self-aware, postmodern humour. You can't spend half your time criticising the tropes of storytelling while embodying the very cliches of modern remakes that people are so sick and tired of. Now, all of this would be bad enough, resulting in simply another forgettable remake of something far more popular, but the thing that really struck me about Velma is the sheer bitterness and hatred that seems to radiate from it. You really get the sense that this is some kind of emotional colonic irrigation for the writers, like you're witnessing a whole lifetime's worth of petty resentments, jealousy, personal grudges, and bitter regrets being vomited up onto the screen in front of you. I don't know if they had a really tough time in high school or something, but I can't shake the feeling that the whole thing is some kind of coping session against anyone who was more rich, more successful, more popular, or more attractive than them. Either way, the attempted humour in Velma just comes across as hateful and nasty instead of funny and insightful. Man, what a weird target for something like this. Like I say, the original Scooby-Doo had a pretty wholesome message about a group of friends from different backgrounds learning to work together to overcome challenges. They each had their own strengths and weaknesses, and no one member of the group could solve the mystery by themselves. It taught kids that every individual has value, that you shouldn't judge a person's worth based on superficial characteristics. But of course, this being a modern remake produced by professional victims with ingrained grievances, the diverse female main character has to be the singular genius who triumphs against the odds, and everyone else just kind of orbits around her, entranced by her all-conquering awesomeness. And of course, the rich white guy is always on hand to be the butt of every single joke. Now, you might be wondering if I'm going to watch the rest of this season so I can give it a fuller review by the end, and the answer to that is fuck off! Velma isn't worth even a moment more of my time, or anyone else's for that matter. It's a pointless dumpster fire of a show that deserves to be consigned to the ash heap of history as quickly as possible. So do yourself a favour and watch something far more rewarding, like paint drying. Anyway, that's all I've got for today.
The Chad.
Go away now!
But he's still the bad guy for being white. So stupid. Critical Drinker. Alright, you guys want to see... by the way, welcome back, Fanglizzy. You want to see Moist talk about the Joyce and Roiland situation getting worse? So it's going to be us watching, probably on Twitch, watching me watch Moist Critical of a recording on Twitch of him watching YouTube on Twitch. Anyway, we're going to go a few layers deep with this, I'm sure.
This week, Rick and Morty fans got jump-scared with some of the worst news they've
Peak
received
Monaco.
since the Szechuan sauce riots of 2017. God rest all those lost souls. There's some very serious, troubling news that broke about Justin Roiland. He was arrested on felony domestic violence charges as well as a false imprisonment charge for an incident that took place in 2020.
Yikes.
Much like everyone else, I was very surprised by this news. I think most people were shocked. This isn't a situation where there was a lot of people wiggling a finger saying, "I told you so, you should have listened to us." This was something that caught most people off guard. These are serious charges he's facing, and a lot of people, myself included, were also confused on what a false imprisonment charge is in this situation.
So he held a woman against her
Because I
will.
think most of us assumed that was something that only a law enforcement officer or someone in that position could be charged with. So I had to look it up myself. And to be fair, you have to have a pretty high IQ to understand false imprisonment charges. So in this case, he's being charged with false imprisonment by way of menace, violence, fraud, and or deceit.
Jesus.
Which bumps this from a misdemeanor up to a felony. It levels up the charge here. It goes plus ultra, and it basically boils down to keeping someone against their will by intimidating them, scaring them, threatening them, what have you. So it's a very serious thing. That's not some like joke charge by any means. And of course the domestic violence charge is the one that catches most people's eye because that is just fucked up. Especially because it's a domestic battery with corporal injury. Now the victim here is an anonymous person who is remaining a Jane Doe for this case. A lot of the details of this case are being kept private and won't be released to the public. But basically it was someone that Justin Roiland was dating at the time, and this incident occurred in 2020. He pled not guilty to the charges, also posted a $50,000 bail, and this has been an ongoing legal battle ever since. He's gone to very many hearings about this. He recently went to a pre-trial.
Wow.
Trial date.
No one knew about this till now.
But this is a very serious case which carries real jail time should he be found guilty on all of these charges. Now Justin did plead not guilty, and his legal team seems very confident, stating, "It's hard to overstate how inaccurate the recent media coverage of this situation has been. To be clear, not only is Justin innocent, but we also have every expectation that this matter is on course to be dismissed once the district attorney's office has completed its methodical review of the evidence. We look forward to clearing Justin's name and helping him move forward as swiftly as possible." So they seem to believe that this will just be dismissed pretty soon. I am a little confused on what inaccuracies they're talking about when people are just saying like, hey, this is going on at the moment, which is kind of provable, right? Like, he did get charged with these things, he just hasn't been found guilty of them. I'm all for shitting on journalists and the media coverage of things. They can gargle the dirtiest part of my butthole, but in this case, they're kind of just stating, like, this is an ongoing thing, which it is, which you're also confirming. So I don't exactly know what specific inaccuracies is being referred to here, but it is important to note that he has not been found guilty on these charges or anything like that at the moment. This was actually just the first of many dominoes to fall in a very bad week for Justin Roiland and for just general fans of his work. A lot of news was breaking about Justin Roiland having a pretty predatory past in terms of how he talks to fans through DMs and shit. None of the text messages and DMs that have been leaking confirmed as real or verified as of the moment, so I won't really bother showing them. They are turbo cringe, and I again don't know if they're real or not, but they're out there. There's a lot of them as well. But one thing that is confirmed is that his game studio, Squanch Games, did actually have to settle a sexual harassment lawsuit back in 2019. No, that's news to me.
Jeez.
Had some more shit come out today.
People who made High on Life had to settle a sexual harassment lawsuit.
That's no good. He's gonna need a Mr. Meeseeks out there ASAP to do some damage control.
So we're now watching.
That Squanch Games.
We're now streaming us. We're watching him watch on YouTube a recording of his Twitch stream of him watching YouTube. This is so many layers deep now.
This was sued in 2018 for sexual harassment, discrimination, and wrongful termination. Goodness gracious, jeez, Rick.
Yes, girl.
Justin Roiland's Squanch Games quietly settled a sexual harassment lawsuit in 2019. Oh boy, Rick. Sounds like things are getting a little too swifty over at Squanch Games. That's no good. Yeah, they glorbed right out of the trick hole on that one, huh? Jesus Christ. All of this coming out all at once with Justin Roiland. The floodgates are fully open. Overall, the whole situation's extremely sad. Even if you don't like Justin Roiland, this isn't something to celebrate. This isn't something that anyone should want to see. Because if he's found guilty on these charges, that means there was a very real victim who suffered greatly. And that's horrible. Now, I'm not a huge Justin Roiland fan these days. I don't dislike Rick and Morty. I haven't watched it in a couple of years, but I always enjoyed it. I just haven't really felt like watching it recently. But I didn't like High on Life. I dropped it after a few hours. The writing just became an actual headache. And I'm no fan of fourth wall breaking. I don't find it extremely comedic. So when you like press pause in the beginning of the game and then you unpause and it's like, you just paused the game? You just paused the game during a firefight? Are you dumb? How could you just pause the game? You just paused the game during this gunfight? Oh man, we got a real stupid guy here because you just paused the game during a firefight because you weren't thinking, pausing the game. I can't believe you paused the game. Just droning on and on and on. I couldn't deal with it. So I didn't really like High on Life, but I did like Rick and Morty. And I'd say on the whole, I was pretty tired of that just over-explaining every single joke.
He's not wrong about High on Life. That is kind of High on Life, basically.
Off on me, and I stopped enjoying the shtick. So even still, as someone who's not the biggest fan of his recent
Should I still
work,
play High on
I
Life?
don't want him to have been someone that beat and falsely imprisoned the person that they were dating. And if he did do that, I'm hoping the victim gets the help they need to get through this situation, because that shit is traumatic, I imagine. So I'm wishing them the absolute best. It would be a disservice and downright criminal of me not to mention the memes that have spawned from this whole situation. With so many people being pretty tired and exhausted of Justin Roiland's style of writing, as well as High on Life being extremely divisive, people have taken the opportunity to just go hog wild, making jokes.
Hog wild.
You know, referencing Pickle Rick, talking about how this is the wrong Justin Roiland. The Justin Roiland that's, you know, being talked about with this domestic violence charge is actually Justin Roiland of Universe C-137. That's Felon Roiland. Shit like that. Just a non-stop waterfall of memes. A lot of people have wondered if he is found guilty, what it means for the future of Rick and Morty. It's such a cash cow. A lot of people, like myself, think that they'd probably try and continue it without him, but then it would just slowly whittle away and die. Just slowly ferment and rot. because not only is he the main voice actor for Rick and Morty, he is also a writer on it. So if he is found guilty, I don't know how you replace him. The show's quality would be in the shitter and it'd fall off really hard. But I do think they would try and continue it without him, but it wouldn't be successful. That would be my thought if he's found guilty here. But of course, the main thing to focus on isn't necessarily the future of Rick and Morty. It's on whether or not someone was truly beaten and falsely imprisoned by this guy, because that is absolutely fucking horrible. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over this situation a little bit here, since it's one I've been glued to for the last few days to see any new developments and what's going on with the whole thing. It's a pretty sad set of circumstances overall, and yeah, just wanted to talk about it a bit. That's it. See ya.
That's it. See ya. Okay, bye. Why Filthy Frank quit YouTube. Let's see, is the audio still synced up? Right, left. Man, I never beat Far Cry 5. Oh, hang on one sec, guys.